In a Red Sox camp that has featured very little in the way of news, we had some news here today at JetBlue Park. Jake Peavy lacerated his left index finger while he was cutting a fishing knife, according to manager John Farrell. Peavy suffered a pretty good laceration, and he was scheduled to pitch tomorrow, Monday, that is, in Bradenton, and he won't do that. He's going to not throw at all for 3 days. It's on his non-throwing hand. They can maybe try to get him into games. I'm Scott Lauber with colleague Michael Silverman. And Mike, this Peavy news, I guess, kind of is some unwelcome, the kind of unwelcome news for the Red Sox. They're well positioned, I guess, to deal with something like this, but, you know, I mean, can you withstand, I guess, losing a guy this early in camp?
Well, all winter long we spoke about the depth of the rotation, and this is an example of, you know, why they needed it and why they didn't go ahead and trade any number of pitchers. I think just about everyone except for John Lester and Clay Buchholz was mentioned, but Jake Peavy was. This is why you have depth. It sounds to me like this is something that may put his availability in question. Perhaps he won't even be ready by opening day. There's a possibility of that. But luckily, from the sounds of it, it's his non-pitching hand.
Right.
It shouldn't be a long-term deal, but you know, any kind of setback with the Red Sox and the starters, and the starter of his quality is a big one.
Yeah, it's unclear whether Peavy needed stitches, but John Farrell said he did have a procedure today to make sure that there was no infection. And in the game today, Felix Doubront threw 2 really solid innings. And Mike, is he sort of a guy, I have him as kind of a guy who could end up having a breakout season here for the Red Sox. He showed signs last year. Maybe this year is the year he takes that next step and really becomes a pretty solid starter?
Yeah, I like to look at him as the X factor of this rotation. No, I don't think anyone really knows what his ceiling is. He is quite good. He has some electric stuff. But then again, we really haven't seen too much of it because he tends to exit games early because of poor pitch efficiency, or by the end of the season, like last year, he was wiped out. He came into this year, he looks really strong. He looks lean, which is code for he did not look lean last year. He was a tub of goo, a bit.
That's putting it bluntly.
Well, no, we're not talking Rich Garza's goo,
right.
But he was out of shape, and it was a big disappointment for the entire franchise. And he's in a much better place. And again, with Peavy setback, Doubront having a very effective, you know, scoreless one-hit effort today, it's a very positive sign.
I'll give you a number for Felix Doubront, 2.99. That was his ERA during like a 15-start stretch from the end or from the middle of May until the end of August. If he can do that over the course of a full season, I mean, he's way more than a number 4 or 5 starter for the Red Sox. So there's that potential there. They've just got to harness it. A couple of other little news items. Carl Yastrzemski came into camp today, and guess what? He saw his grandson, Mike Yastrzemski, who played a little bit for the Orioles today. You can read about that in tomorrow's paper. And one day after Johnny Manziel was in camp, Doug Flutie stopped by. So tons of Heisman Trophy winners and former quarterbacks and everything else. So that's it from here at JetBlue Park. The Red Sox will be back in action tomorrow, Monday, in Bradenton against the Pirates, and we'll talk to you then.